Hello, everybody. My name is Adam, and I am on a quest to be the most prolific reviewer of all time, which means I'm trying to review about 15,000 different things: books, movies, uh, TV series, podcasts, games, whatever. And today I am going to be reviewing the 2019 movie, uh, war movie called 1917. It's directed by Sam Mendes and it stars George McKay, Dean Charles Chapman, and a bunch of other people, but um, the main the main two stars are those two people. And it tells the story of two soldiers who have been given this somewhat impossible mission because they need to go warn a unit of about 1,600 men that they're walking into a trap. Because, and this happened in real life actually, in 1917 the Germans decided that their lines were too long and they spent a long time building new lines, and which were about 25 kilometers behind the front lines, which were much more defensible. So they moved back, and the plot of the movie is that there was this one unit which did not um, did not know about this, and they thought that maybe they were retreating. So in that part of the movie, it's a bit historically inaccurate because they were um, they did know that they were retreating, and they did know that they were retreating to stronger positions. And 25 kilometers is not something that is like easily done. It was done over maybe 2, 3 weeks, something like that. And even though the Allies did try to take advantage by launching some attacks, at the time coordinating such a large attack would have been really hard to do in such a short time. So it's a bit unrealistic that there would be one unit that was completely out of communication with the rest of the army. And so that's one thing that doesn't is not really accurate, but it makes sense in the movie because it's not like these characters have a bird's eye view of everything, and it's told very much from the perspective of these two individuals. So it might be that they got the orders and they were told like, oh, they don't know, but actually they do know, and it was just they were trying to reinforce to stop whatever. I don't know how that worked actually, but it makes sense in the movie. The other thing that doesn't make sense from a historically accurate perspective, and the director Sam Mendes is completely aware of this, so it's not like a criticism he hadn't thought about, is that the movie is full of action and it's full of movement and it's full of running and it's full of like it makes the First World War seem like very, very exciting. Um, but you know, it it wasn't a war of running, at least on the Western Front. It was a war of like walking very slowly to get blown up after 3 meters or something like that. But he mentioned that he wanted to tell this particular story to make the war to make it more fluid and to have more movement because the the guys are not entirely going directly towards the Germans. They're going like this way. So that movement might have been more possible than this. So Mendes is completely aware of that. So those would be my two historical criticisms of the film. I think I have maybe one more, which, well, I won't talk about that because I don't want to ruin that moment in the movie because I think it is a quite enjoyable film, and I think people should watch it if they have the chance. It is, but unfortunately, it's a movie that kind of makes war interesting, and you know that the characters are suffering, but the the scenery is just apocalyptic, especially this point where they're walking through no man's land, and usually it was such a struggle for soldiers to advance, and you can see why because there's huge craters, there's dead bodies. So it's like the fascination that we have with horror movies is kind of like what this movie is portraying war as. Like it's really, really fascinating. And, you know, I think when I was a kid, I kind of fell victim to that sort of romanticism of it. And it's weird because they're trying to make an anti war movie, but they're making it look uh, interesting. Um, and there's only maybe 2 points where one of the main character just breaks down. Um, and that's a really powerful point where he's just sobbing on the ground, like, you know, what am I doing? And he, so there's these two characters, Schofield and the other guy. I remember Schofield's name because of something that I'll talk about later. But yeah, so there's these two characters, they're just British soldiers, and they, um, um, an officer comes to one of them and says, "Hey, pick somebody," and he doesn't. He sees one guy sleeping by a tree. And he's like, "Hey, come on!" So they go, and the guy who was picked to go on this mission thought that it was going to be like a simple thing, like getting food or something, but they've been tasked to deliver this message to this unit to prevent them from attacking very heavily fortified positions, and they have about 8 hours to get there. So the movie is kind of like this adventure of them trying to get to that point, and it's showing all of the catastrophes of war, basically. And I think that part was really, as I said, it's a little bit more fascinating than you would want in an anti-war film, but it is really fascinating. It shows like the destruction of all of like these huge trenches, dead horses in no man's land, the barbed wire, how dangerous that was. It shows aerial warfare. It shows the kind of um, the inhumanity of war and the pointlessness of war. But as I said, it's really, really fascinating. So it's not as effective as an anti-war movie as it could be. And I think I have like one criticism of the way the movie was made itself, and I think it's connected to this fascination of war kind of theme of it. And that is, for the most part, although there is one moment which I keep referring to, which I'll talk about in a moment, but for the most part, the music does not match what's happening on the screen. So you can see that the actors are doing this great job of portraying like this emotion, right, of despair or whatever. And then there's like this uplifting music, which doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, I think I would just not have any music at all and just let the actors, maybe not have any music in the whole movie, but let the actors act. And I've been hinting at it for a while, so I'll just say it directly now. The the one time when the movie's music actually um, matches with the emotion of the scene is, I think, actually one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a movie, which is the Schofield run. So, as I said, the characters have been tasked with giving this message to stop this attack, and the character of Schofield over the movie becomes more and more desperate to deliver the message, and he is literally 300 meters away from being successful in delivering his message, but there's a line of soldiers who are about to go over the trenches, and he has to get past the line. So he runs in front of the soldiers that are advancing towards the German lines. So the Germans are attacking, and the the other soldiers are attacking, and he's just like running, running, running. He gets pounded a few times, He collides a little bit with, I mean, twice, really violently with people who are running towards the direction of the front lines. And you can just see right there, like that, I don't know how long that sequence lasts, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or even shorter. It's just a really good summary of the chaos of war. And the music is very triumphant and inspirational because he is driven by this thing which he can't achieve unless he gets there, you know. So again, we go back to this idea that it's fascinating, war is fascinating, and also it's fascinating because what it does to the human character, because he becomes obsessed by fulfilling his mission. And I think the movie is really, really well structured because it begins with him being under a tree, kind of really cynical, and then it ends with him being under the tree, uh, far beyond cynical, like a broken man, basically. Because he thought he was broken before, then he's really broken. So the movie tells a really, really great story. I'm just not sure that some of the parts of it are effective, like the inspirational music when characters are not feeling that way. Another thing that I think is, I understand why movies do it, because we have this perception now that World War One was the bad war, because it was the war that kind of started the Second World War, and you know it was pointless. So many people died, and yes, it was pointless. It was a bad war. So many people died, and it's kind of interesting to think about what the world would have looked like without that war. Um, but the characters, none of the characters in there, except of the Schofield's friend, none of the characters in there have, and he's not even that much. They don't have any. No one talks about honor or duty or anything, and these are concepts that people believe in now, and they really believed in then. So how do you motivate people to do that, right? To just go in front if everybody is cynical and doesn't believe in it anymore. I think that we tend to look at it as like fake because so many people were sacrificed, but how do you think they motivated themselves? So that's not just a problem of this movie, it's a problem of a lot of modern movies about that particular time period. Um, yeah, what did you think about it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you appreciate my reviews, like and subscribe. I have a goal of having 150 subscribers by the end of January. We have about 108 right now, so I think it's quite doable. And if you want to support my podcast and my channel in a different way, you can check out the Patreon. It's kind of a unique perspective on Patreon, so check that out. And all right, thank you. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.